Hello viewers, welcome to another exciting and eye-opening episode of Above Whispers Conversations. My name is Kali Nuka and joining me today are my savvy discussants.
My name is Omolola.
My name is Moreni Keji.
My name is Mudipe Oluwa.
And today we will be reading another article from the collection of essays Where is Your Rapper? Written by Erelu Bisi Adeleye Fayemi. Where is Your Rapper is a riveting collection of essays. It is thought-provoking and transformational. And our topic today is a conversation with mommy. A conversation with mommy is a dialogue between the author and her mother. And today, Lola will be reading as her mother and I will be reading as the author. Join us as we read the essay. You look well, mommy. Lovely as always.
Thank you, my dear. It is good to see you again. It has been a while.
I am sorry it has taken this long for me to visit. I have been busy.
It is all right. You always keep in touch, so that makes up for it. Thank you for checking on Mama Agba recently. She was so happy to see you.
It was great to see her too. She's strong and alert for someone who is almost 100 years old. I was scared for a while. I thought she was going to pass away. Can you believe what she told me? She said if she dies, she wants a funeral that is grander than that of Mama Banwo, her co-wife. So they want to carry their rivalry to the grave. What is it with old people from your area and funerals? Mama Agba never asked me for anything over the years till she wanted to do the final funeral rites for her mother, who died 45 years ago. She has not asked for anything till now, only to make a request for a grand funeral for herself.
Well, they believe that how you are buried is an expression of how you live. If you live a good life, no matter how long or short, you should be buried well. Old people are envious when they attend or hear of the funerals of their peers. For them, it is a form of competition. That is why the funerals in those days used to be done in phases. The first phase was the interment. The second and third phases would be done within 7 years. However, with modernity, the last phase was either postponed indefinitely or skipped altogether. If Mama Agba had not finished the 3 phases for her mother, it would have made things difficult for us when our time comes.
Mommy, funerals are for the living. We are the ones who pay the bills. The dead only show up in a coffin, and it does not matter if the coffin costs 5,000 naira or 5 million. Enough about funerals. I hope Mama Agba hangs around a bit more. Interesting.
Interesting.
So the perspective concerning giving the dead a befitting burial is a big deal. For us, it's a big deal. People like Mama Agba now, they live well and they want to be buried well. But do you think that the our focus has changed from the living to the dead? And we now focus on those funeral rites.
Befitting burial has always been a big deal. It will always be a big deal. So as far as Africa is concerned. But the problem I have with it is the dead now was not cared for while the dead was living. Many dead and many elderly don't receive care while they are ill, when they needed help. Some of them died wretched, no roof over their head, and then you are throwing a big party. So I consider that the priority has been totally misplaced. Why not care for the living? And then when they die, you do whatever you can afford. Give them a befitting. Nobody is saying you shouldn't bury the dead well. Give them befitting burial. And then you will find out that what you have done for the living is more important. Because the dead does not even know. The dead don't care. The bill is for us. It's on us. And so you spend a lot of money for someone who doesn't know anymore. The love you had for that person while the person was alive is more important.
Very true.
And it's more important than the partying itself. So I think the priority has been misplaced.
That's so right. And in addition to what Moreni Keji said, it's unfortunate that we no longer reflect on what funerals should be for anymore.
True.
You're supposed to attend funerals to celebrate the life of the person that died. True. You're supposed to attend funerals to say your final goodbyes. However, what we have now is 10% funeral and 90% carnival. What matters most is
what you're saying is true.
what matters most is the Ashwebi, the band, the guest of honor,
The crowd, the
Those are
attention.
How grand.
those are now the important things. You're supposed to attend funerals to reflect on the life of the dead as well as your own life itself. You should attend and think, how did this person impact me? What did this person do while the person was alive? And the truth is, we will die one day. Death is inevitable. So you should also think, today, if I die tomorrow, what will people say about me? What will be said at my grave? See, people lie at funerals
All the time.
and if you don't want people to lie, tell yourself the truth. The truth they will say, is it good enough? And if it is not, it should inspire you to do better, to live better. And another thing is, we don't even think nowadays. Younger people, they are the ones dying.
True.
And the older ones are even living longer.
It's shorter.
It's shorter. So we're not thinking someone is dead at 35, at 49, at 50, and you are bothered about having the biggest party.
You're spending millions.
Spending millions on that. Rather than sitting down and thinking, what would happen to the children? What would happen to the vision this person had ongoing, the legacy this person had ongoing before he or she passed? All those things are no longer important.
Modupe is so right, honestly. Modupe is so right, because looking at it from this angle, I realize that the privileged have a better understanding of what funerals should be. They do. Look at it. They know that death is inevitable. You have to plan. They plan. It's the poor that doesn't plan for things. The unexpected just falls on them. The privileged know that this will happen. So why not plan for it? Why do you explain why someone will take out a life assurance? To cater to what happens to the children, the family when something happens. And then the privileged will think about it this way, okay, I don't want my children to even stress over me. I have lived my life, I've enjoyed myself. Why don't I bury myself in grand style? So I have money set aside to buy my casket the way I want it, to put myself in a vault where I want it. This is where I want my body to be laid and all of that. They have it all planned out. Now the poor just jumps into it. The poor has taken loans and you take loans to do burials, you take loans to do Ashwebi and all of that. Forgetting that the privilege took out of their abundance.
True.
You, the poor, you took the abundance of the only that you have. Only. You understand? So it beats the imagination when you see that they want to do so the grandiose things like the privilege, not knowing what the privilege have done and put into place to make these things as grand as they look. And then if you look at it, the network of the privilege is solid. See, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. You see that the privilege, their formation is tight. When Morenikeji is controlling correct wealth and controlling correct wealth, Modupe and Kali are see, I know that Morenikeji can open some doors for me. I'll sort some bills for her when she wants to do it. She will sort some, and then I'm looking good because my formation is tight. But the poor is your friends that will say, no, buy this Ashwebi for me. Buy the Ashwebi for me. You have to share it. Out of the nothing that you have. See, when we have these things, we know that we have lost the priority.
This is a very interesting conversation. People don't even think to have. Let's read another excerpt from the essay.
You know you are very much like Mama Gbegi, my grandmother, and your great-grandmother. She is what you people would have called a feminist these days.
I have heard that she was a formidable woman.
Yes, she was. She did not tolerate any nonsense, and she was always standing up for people, especially women. Her daughter, your Mama Agba, was supposed to marry someone else. Mama Gbegi did not consent to the marriage because the family she was about to marry into had a custom that required the young ladies in the family to dance topless around the town during the annual festival. My grandmother felt the practice was backward.
That is very interesting. I never knew that. I am sure it was unusual for women at the time to speak out against negative cultural practices. No wonder people were in awe of her. People make it sound as if feminists are importing foreign values. Perhaps we should spend more time talking to the old women in our communities about acts of resistance. Was that her decision to make though? What did her husband have to say? It is obvious that feminism did not start now. It has been since very long ago. Only it was without a title.
Mhm.
Yes, so why is it that there is this narrative that our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, they were so shy, they were so timid, and they could not stand up against justice?
The reason why that
Against
is
injustice.
the reason why that is because we've lost touch with our history. We have lost touch with history. See, history has it that women did fantastic things when it came to speaking up against oppression, colonial oppression, colonial rule, government oppression, and all of that. We have a whole lot of them. Let me start. Funmilayo Ransome Kuti. Everybody knows Funmilayo. If you ask the average person that knows Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, they'll say she was the first woman that drove a car in Nigeria. But she was beyond that. She was an educator, she was a woman rights activist, she was a political strategist. She mobilized women to speak up against colonial rule. In fact, she was one of those that were in the forefront leading the campaign that women should start voting in the North. Way before women started voting in the North, she was amongst them. She, Margaret Ekpo, that led the Enugu Women Riot, Queen Amina of Zazzau, them, which is present day Zaria. She ruled for 34 years. She was a queen warrior. She ruled in about the 16th century. She personally led women and men into war. She charted the territories that we know as the Northern Territory. She was responsible for the expansion of those territories in the North. So many women like Gambo Sawaba. Gambo Sawaba was the political chairman of the NUEP party now. And then, I mean, these women, what earned Funmilayo Ransome Kuti the tag Lioness of Lisa. Queen Amina of Zaria, people, she had this tag, Amina, the woman that was like a man. See, these women are there. Margaret Ekpo, we have so many, Efusheto and Niwura, we have so many of them. I can really love the names, but we have lost touch with history. That is what has driven the narrative that women are suddenly making noise. No, they are not suddenly making noise. It's been always there.
So, and you know, I want to say something. I really actually have to state that I don't feel that we just lost touch with history. History died. History was killed intentionally. See, let me pick Lola's example of Funmilayo Ransome Kuti. Why is it that the only thing we know her of is the first woman to drive a car and the mother of Fela Anikulapo Kuti? I mean, she was an activist. True. That tells you that the story, the narrative was actually driven to actually just streamline her to one thing. See, why other nations of the world are concerned about their younger generation knowing about their history? Because you know, history is uplifting. History is inspiring. History links you up with your roots. And you know, those are things that are very important for national development. Now, when you don't want women to be involved in national development, what do? You take away history. Take for example, the Nigerian Naira notes, our currency. How many notes are dedicated to the woman? Are you telling me that during those times there were no women? Are you telling me that there is no school, university in Nigeria, public buildings that can't be dedicated to a woman? That tells you that the patriarchal influence in our society is so deep that it tries to, it changes the narrative, changes the story on what women have done. So, our history was actually deliberately killed. I mean, we don't even have history in the curriculum. It was taken away from the curriculum.
It's unfair to say that our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers were silent about oppression. It's very unfair. Just look at the examples they have given already. Are we talking about Funmilayo Kuti? And the impact of this woman, we still feel the impact till today. Only that this history was taken away so that it looked like they were silent. And it looked like over time there was a gap and there was silence. Not that women were not actually even fighting. It's because there was a deliberate act to keep these things out of headline, you understand? They didn't make it to the tabloids. And then you start to tell me that our grandmothers were saying, no, they were the true woke generation. Our grandmothers and great-grandmothers, they were brave, strong, powerful women who spoke up regardless of whether they were going to get killed or not.
So our generation has a lot in our favor. For example, social media, a very powerful tool. Do you think that we are making good use of this access that we have to social media?
No, we're not. At least we're not as much as we should. I mean, we have the world in our hands, yet we're not doing enough. There's a whole lot that you can get from social media. I mean, people make money, legitimate money on social media. People school. People do a whole lot of things that are profitable from social media. But, we also have the
the high percentage of younger women who are carried away with living the life on social media.
That's true.
The hype, exactly. The glam of social media. We're concerned more about material things. We're concerned about showing off on social media rather than taking the abundance of knowledge that is available on social media. You know, we have those that are more concerned about the kind of life they represent to the outside over what they are. People that just want to fake it till they make it. Exactly. You know, they fake it till they make it. And you know, it's quite unfortunate that we're not making good use of it as we should. I agree with her. We are not at all. Considering the fact that we are the ones making a whole lot of noise about being the woke generation. I mean, look at the fact that we know that it's bad enough. Agreed. History has been taken out of the curriculum. But what happened to the power of social media that information is readily available
of
the internet at the tap of your fingers? Why don't you research? We are not researching. See, those on the end providing information, providing the entertainment and all of that on social, and those on the receiving end. We have prioritized entertainment over education. What happened to entertainment? If at all you're not even taking the whole of education, what happened to entertainment? In every bit of the entertainment you're doing, there should be some form of education. What's happening? Then you realize that a whole lot of young people just trolling people on social media, on the internet. Just because I see that I feel more naked, I just don't like the look of her face. So whatever she puts out there just has to be rubbish. I trash it, and I employ my army to begin to trash and trash. We don't look at what she has to offer, what she has to say that I can take. And on the converse too, because I like the person, I just like the way her nose. I like the fact that the girl is just set and all of that. Every bowder that she spits out, is right. Google it, take it, hook, line and sinker, and then my whole army too. We are just feeding off of it, and it's just a whole mess.
We are not taking judicial advantage of the social media, especially the positive part. You know, you find people coming there only to compete with other women, with other people who don't care whether you exist or not. People you don't know their struggle, you don't know their story, you don't know their lives, you don't know how long they have been doing what they are doing, and then you are running a competition and they don't even know that you are in competition with them. You see somebody who is driving a Range Rover, suddenly you start to run the race of Range Rover. You don't know how long it took that woman to get social media. That's why it's very important to discipline the mind as to what you get. Set the messages you get, the information you get from social media. Go on the internet, get facts about the information, and then live your life. There's a process to everything. Enjoy the process.
Exactly. So much has been said on this episode, so much, especially putting priority on the living and not on the dead. Can we have final remarks for the ladies?
I think we should put more priority on the living. We should invest into the living than investing in funerals.
And social media, just as I said, we just have to learn to use it to our advantage.
True.
Use it to our utmost advantage, and then as much as possible limit the disadvantages, and just I hope we'll be good for it before we all realize that. Yes, you know what I'm just going to say is bring back our history. Bring back history to schools, bring back history to gatherings, and please let the spotlight be on women. Women have done things, don't sideline it. So bring back our history.
We've said a lot on this episode. Let's keep the conversations going. What do you think about funeral rites? What do you think about, the internet and what we can do with the internet and how we can move good movements using this powerful tool of social media that we have? Keep the conversations going. Share this video to as many as possible. Follow us on Above Whispers, and till we see you next time in the next episode of Above Whispers Conversations. Together we say bye.